Welcome to the collection of the wildest and craziest AITA Reddit stories of all time. From wild betrayals to shocking twists, these tales will leave you questioning who is really in the wrong. Let's dive in together. The first story for this collection is from overall-5812. AITA for not giving my parents half of my pay because they said they only kept me around for my money. So, I, 22M, recently got a full-time job and moved back home temporarily to save money. My parents immediately demanded half of my paycheck every month, claiming it was my duty as their son. I was willing to contribute something, but half? That felt extreme. When I pushed back, they got nasty. One night during an argument, my mom outright said, "We only kept you around because you'd eventually pay us back. You owe us for everything we spent raising you." My dad agreed, laughing that I was their retirement plan. I was stunned and hurt, but I had the presence of mind to save the convo using Reclip. I didn't say much after that and just focused on planning my next move. A few days later, I visited my grandparents, who have always been kind and supportive, and played them the Reclip. They were horrified. Long story short, my grandparents offered to let me move in with them. They told my parents they were cutting them off financially until they learned how to treat me properly. Now my parents are furious, calling me a manipulative brat and saying I've ruined the family dynamic. OP is not the AH. His parents saw him as a financial investment rather than a son. Their entitlement justified his decision to leave. Their anger stems from losing control, not from OP doing anything wrong. He simply protected himself, for which he has every right. As for scores, I would rate OP 0, and OP's parents 3.5 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now move on to the next story from Melon. Am I the AH for telling my friend's girlfriend that he cheated on her? I, 21F, have a really good friend I consider as a brother. Let's call him Theo, 21M. He has a girlfriend we will call Alexa, 20F, and they have been dating for 4 years now. For context, Theo has always had the reputation of the bad boy heartthrob, and we met in college. Girls usually throw themselves at him, and he usually does not set boundaries with them, which is something that I personally think is a red flag. But I kept that to myself. When I met him, he flirted with me, and I pushed him away because he's not my type. And I also figured he had a long-distance girlfriend whom he introduced me to a while ago. I thought he was a POS for that, but with time, I gave him a chance as a friend, and we became really close at some point. Alexa and I also got along really good, and I genuinely love that girl. She's beautiful both in and out. Before I met Theo, he and Alexa had gotten in a really bad fight about a rumor of him cheating. Separated for 4 months, but she ended up taking him back. Their past is none of business, and watching them together now was really nice, so I genuinely thought they were going to get engaged at some point. However, I still see a lot of Theo's red flags, and have caught him flirting with a lot of girls on campus. I say it's none of my business, and go on about my day. Then, a few months ago, Theo told me he had been ghosting Alexa for 5 days because he had no energy to talk to her. Theo is someone who keeps to himself when he has issues, and Alexa likes to talk it out. He said that Alexa wasn't giving him space, despite them being in an LDR. On the same day, he confessed to me that he had a crush on a mutual friend of ours. Let's call her Abby, 21F. I could tell that Abby also had a crush on Theo, and I was very sad about it, because I really liked Alexa. Alexa and I had spoken a few times before, and we had become friends too, so I just texted her to ask if she's okay. She started crying and opening up about her relationship with Theo. I stayed quiet about whatever Theo was doing in college, but a few days later she texted me, letting me that she was going to break up with him. She told me it wasn't the first time Theo did this, and she was sick of him. I agreed with her decision, despite feeling bad for Theo, cause he's still my friend. We talked some more, and she told me that his inability to set boundaries with his other girlfriends pisses her off, but she's never had this issue with me because I have always set clear boundaries with Theo. I listened to her rant some more whilst preparing to go to the club with my friends the same night. That night, I got faced during the pre-game, but I remember seeing Theo and Abby getting really close to each other. Even my sober friends pointed it out, and I drunkenly cursed at him for doing that to Alexa. Abby just looked at me and kept on touching his face. I was mad but too drunk to say more, so I just passed out after clubbing. The following day, Theo came to my place and admitted that he and Abby went back home together. Apparently, they didn't hook up because Theo told me that they only watched movies then slept. You see, personally, I still wouldn't take that. I lost respect for both Theo and Abby, and when Alexa texted me again, I told her to be careful about Theo and Abby. I didn't tell her what they did, but I just told her to watch out. After that, they got in a big fight, broke up, and Theo stopped hanging out with me that much. I didn't care because for me, cheating is cheating. We were still friends, but I couldn't look at him the same. You think the story ends here, but nope, it's only just begun. A month later, they got back together, and Alexa came to visit Theo on campus. I felt a bit guilty about their previous breakup, because I felt like I played a part in it. I stayed away from both of them, but we were all still friends, so we did see each other a handful of times. None of them brought up what happened earlier, and Theo and Abby were also distanced from each other. After Alexa went back home, a new girl came to uni. Let's name her Chels. Well, she's very beautiful but unfriendly as so I never bothered myself with her. Until Theo announces that he has a crush on her. I was like, whatever bro, you do you. During Halloween, I got faced at a party again and had a heart-to-heart with Theo. He told me he was on a break with Alexa and he was having some issues. He saw Chels as a getaway and they got close. They flirted with each all night and went clubbing together. I just went back home and ignored everything. Last week, Alexa texted me again and she brought up what happened earlier. She thanked me for looking out for her, and I told her it was the very least I could do, as I hated watching girls make a fool out of themselves with their boyfriends. She deserved so much more, and I let her know that. Then she started crying again. She looked messy as hell, and she had even lost weight since Theo and her fought, and went on a break. This time, she told me she was done with him, and asked me to be brutally honest with her. I told her I don't believe her, because they will end up getting back to each other, and I don't want to be the villain. But she cried so much, and told me she found out what happened earlier. Another mutual friend of ours told her about Theo and Abby, and she wanted to hear the whole truth from me because she trusts me. I told her to ask Theo cause him, and I aren't close anymore. However, she kept on begging, and right at that moment, I saw Theo and Chels all dressed up and going out together, because Theo and I are neighbors. I ended up cracking and telling her everything as it happened, not hiding stuff to protect Theo anymore. She was devastated and confronted him about it, but he denied it all. At that moment, I said no thanks to the drama because I had exams. I wished Alexa good luck, told her I always had her back, but I do not wish to associate myself with Theo again. Theo didn't speak to me since that day. We never confronted each other, but Alexa and I still talk about life and regular stuff. Today, Theo texted me the classic, "We need to talk," and I know it's going to be about Alexa. Before talking to him, I just want to know, was I the AH here? OP is not the AH. Theo repeatedly disrespected Alexa, and OP only told the truth when Alexa begged for honesty. Loyalty shouldn't protect a serial cheater. If Theo valued his relationship, he wouldn't have given OP anything to expose. As for scores, I would rate OP 0 and Theo 4 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now jump onto the next story from Bernverng. AITA for not telling my ex-girlfriend I was thinking about breaking up. I, 22M, had been dating my girlfriend, 21F, for around 4 or 5 months, and we had been friends before that for almost 3 years. I know opinions are split on this, but I date to marry, so if I pick up on something that makes me incompatible with someone in the long run, I usually take it as a sign to not take things too much further, even if I'm enjoying it in the long run, because I believe that if you wait to break something off when you already know it won't work, it'll only hurt worse down the line. So, that being said, my ex had really bad body image issues, which on their own wouldn't cause any compatibility problems. I was sympathetic and did my best to remind her how beautiful and attractive I found her. I just wish she could have seen that herself. I had dated people with body image issues before, as I think most people have, so it wasn't really anything new to me either. A lot of people have body issues. I don't 100% love my body either, but her issues really got to her. At the beginning of the relationship, when we were having sex more, it never lasted more than maybe 10 minutes at maximum before she got too self-conscious and wanted to stop. This didn't make me mad by any means, but it was disheartening seeing her get so down on herself, and slightly frustrating rarely getting to finish, and actually never getting to make her finish. Just so it said, I love being a giver in bed, and get off on getting my partners off. No partner I'd had regular with had ever told me they had an issue getting off with me, so never getting her there along with not having much in general did start to get to my head. A little after a month into the relationship, I noticed that even when I would initiate, she wouldn't want to do anything at all. After a couple times of that, she told me that because of her body image issues and being on SSRIs that her libido is pretty infrequent and can often go away for a couple weeks at a time, where she does not feel aroused at all and doesn't even feel like doing anything on her own. This didn't bother me at the time, and I told her that. But a couple weeks slowly became 2 months where I was lucky to kiss my girlfriend for 5 straight seconds. She wouldn't even want initiate kissing, and wasn't cold towards me emotionally, but she had absolutely no interest in. A few times during this period, she asked me at different points if it bothered me. Each time I said no, but each time I was asked I was considering more and more whether I could deal with this for life. I did lie, but to my knowledge this was something she had no control over, and I saw no reason as to why I should get along on this ride with me. I mean, really, should I have said, yes, it's bothering me, and I'm wondering whether I can stay with you or not because of it? During this time, I also started trying to ask questions here and there to find out what I was in store for, if I did want to stay with them. After me asking, I found out that it can last months at a time. After one of these questions, she cried because I was not being nearly as subtle as I thought I was. I was never mad at her or judging her, but after about a month of not having contact, I was seriously starting to wonder whether I could deal with it and wanted to try to get more information without straight up telling my girlfriend, I'm thinking about breaking up with you because of this. Eventually, after a little over 2 months of this, I finally realized I wasn't going to be able to deal with it for life. I was crushed, my girlfriend was my best friend, and I thought we were compatible for a lot of other reasons. But I think I was a little at ease because we always said we would stay friends after. My plan was to just kind of vaguely say we were incompatible. I don't know what I thought I was going to manage that became her first question was, did you lie to me about my libido? And I told her yes. She was very upset and said that if I told her, it was an issue she could have worked on it more in therapy, although she never posed it as something that could be worked through. She's already in therapy, and I guess I figured she already would be. I guess. I also didn't want to talk to her about it, because I was worried she might force herself to have sex with me, which would make me hate myself. She told me she wouldn't have done that. If I had any idea it could have been, I wouldn't have broken up, because breaking up meant I thought there was no way around it. She also said that the questions I asked about it made it obvious I was expecting her to do something, but I was only ever trying to figure out if it was something I could deal with for life. My questions were, has it lasted longer than this before? Does it usually last this long, etc.? I never wanted her to feel pressured, I just wanted to know what I was in for. After some arguing and a couple days apart, she said she does not want to be friends because I wasn't honest. I'm crushed. I feel like I lost my best friend because I wanted to keep her safe. My last relationship I hung on too long and regretted it, and I didn't want to do that here. All along it could have been worked on though, apparently. I feel like I tried to do the right thing and still ended up screwing up. Also, I'm sure I'll get some mean comments here for reasons, which is fine, but I appreciate any genuine feedback. Thank you. OP is an AH for not being upfront. While his feelings were valid, he would have given his ex a chance to work on it. However, he wasn't malicious, just misguided in trying to protect her while making his decision. So as for score, I would rate OP 1.5 and OP's X 0 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now jump on to the next story from past_incident 919. AITA for being extremely anxious when around BIL because of what he did. I can't get over it. I, 20F, just moved to the USA from Canada after months of preparation to be with my husband, 23M, and begin our family. I'm currently 24 weeks pregnant with a beautiful baby boy. While we were discussing living arrangements until we finish up saving to purchase our home, my in-laws invited us to live with them. They're very sweet, supportive people towards me and my husband. They live in a large house with my husband's autistic brothers, P, 25M, and S, 19M. I get along fairly well with S, but I can only handle P in smaller doses because he tends to be difficult, especially when he doesn't get his way. Long story short, he never helps around the house like everyone else. He spends all day at his computer desk doing whatever, and if we all plan something, he's usually the first to complain. Everyone knows what he's like and doesn't want to deal with it. I try to be understanding because I know how autism works. Some things aren't in his control, but I won't lie and say everyone is okay with the constant nagging. Before moving in, I was notified about something he had previously done. He spent thousands of dollars on OF girls. He wasn't allowed to have much access to the internet afterwards, so I thought nothing of it. It's not my business, and I assumed it was years ago. Fast forward to yesterday evening. My husband had just fallen asleep, and I was watching a show quietly on my cell phone on Netflix when I saw a strange notification from his email telling him his subscription to his OF girls have expired. Then it immediately went away. My heart began to race. We have an open phones policy since dating, not that we ever use it. And I know he would never cheat on me. But recently we hit a rough patch with our intimacy due to the pregnancy, so I let thoughts of me being unattractive consume me, and I opened up his phone. I'll keep it brief. Hundreds of links to porn in his browser history when he said he never watches it. I was shocked, heartbroken, and confused. Going into his email, he had an OF subscription to multiple women with personalized videos addressed to him. And in his Google search, he was looking for OF women in our area to meet with physically. I cried and went back into our room to put his cell phone back on his charging station. He woke up and asked why I was crying, all concerned. I just said he should ask his OF women, and he looked puzzled. He said they weren't his, and we stayed up all night in distress. We already have full access to each other's everything. But he gave me his email, which I didn't have yet, because it's an email he only uses for quick Google searches, subscriptions to TV show programs, and shopping usually. He let his parents and siblings borrow it for Netflix, but otherwise, it's his. Scrolling down the history, we discovered disturbing titles of that even if some of the actors are 18 plus, could be basically illegal. I flipped out because that wasn't the man I married, but he promised he would prove it wasn't him. We noticed the same Twitter, OF, PH, and emails going to his brother P's computer. P had taken my husband's email address and used it to fuel his PA/SA. He was secretly using it for years to look up disturbing things, make subscriptions for porn with disposable gift cards, all under my husband's name. I was absolutely disgusted. My husband was too. We cried and immediately informed his parents about our discovery. Not only could this get my husband in trouble, but I nearly divorced him, thinking he cheated on me. They said they'll be taking away his devices and talking to him, but this isn't enough for me. The titles were things like sold daughter and young and screaming for help and incest and even bestiality. My husband and my in-laws inform me he wouldn't ever hurt me, but I'm terrified for my son and me. He's already creepy, but now? I can't stand to be around him. I feel threatened. I'm also angry he could do such a thing. Everyone is finding things to blame like autism, and he thinks he will never get a girlfriend. But I've locked myself in our room not wanting to come out. I don't want to see him or hear him. I'm terrified and disgusted being in the same house as him. He knows what he was doing. He knows it's wrong. This punishment wasn't enough in my eyes. Constant panic attacks and anxiety on my end, but my in-laws, I'm sure think I'm being overdramatic and should find a way to forgive him because of his autism. AITA? TLDR. My autistic brother-in-law, 25M, stole my husband's email address to subscribe to OFPH and watch very disturbing, and potentially illegal if the actors weren't 18 plus, videos all under my husband's name. I'm uncomfortable around him and worried for my husband, my son, and my safety. If anyone accuses this of being a fake story, it isn't. I have hundreds of screenshots, videos, etc. to prove. OP is not the AH, and her fear and discomfort are completely valid, given the disturbing nature of her brother-in-law's actions. Autism doesn't excuse potentially illegal behavior. Her in-laws minimizing it is unacceptable. Her priority should be her safety and her child's. As for scores, I would rate OP's 0 and OP's brother-in-law 3.5 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now jump on to the next story from Askin-4, a friend. AITA for being upset that my boyfriend still keeps in touch with a previous love interest. Had an 800-day Snapchat streak with a girl, OnlyFans sub and other. My boyfriend, 34M, and I, 35F, met online on a dating app about 9 months ago. He never officially asked me to be his GF, but we established that we are BF-GF at some point during the summer. He doesn't think he needed to ask at our age, so fine. Previous love interest. Before my boyfriend met me, he had met a girl by literally picking her from Instagram and reaching out to her on Instagram before we met. He messaged her and they went out for 2 lunches together as friends, which he says are not dates. I'm not buying, as she was in a relationship at the time and still is. And this was before he met me. They stayed friends, and he still has her on Instagram, and they exchange memes every now and then. I was upset because one of the memes she sent him was about her love language, and he says he doesn't respond to her anymore. But he showed me their chat, and he did respond to some MSGs, just ones that were not to love, but were just a photo of candy from the 90s and a meme about it or something. I just feel it's completely inappropriate for him to stay in touch with an old love interest while in a relationship. But he thinks it's fine because they never went on a date and they're just friends, and he doesn't respond to her MSGs, but he does. Also, if you only went on 2 lunches with someone as friends and they are not your best friend, so what's the big deal of saying goodbye or cutting off contact with them? Furthermore, I feel like when men fall in love with a woman, these old flings fall off the radar naturally, and I shouldn't have to ask for the bare minimum respect from him. And the girl knows I exist. He posts about me on Instagram all the time, and he did tell her about me, but she still sends him this. So, the girl clearly has no respect for me or her own BF either. His other argument is, what if it was a guy messaging him? I'm like, not the same. You went on 2 dates with this chick, and she's sending you memes about her love languages while you are both in relationship. He has lots of friends that are girls, and I have absolutely no issue with because they don't send him weird lovey shit, and they have no prior dating history. He could meme those other girls all day, and I wouldn't care. OnlyFans. I've also found out he recently deleted his subscription for OnlyFans. I also think is inappropriate to have while in relationship, because it's not just. He did delete his subscription on his own before I found out about it, but I had to ask him to delete his account, and he did. He did say it's just, but understood where I was coming from and deleted the account. Snapchat. He also had a Snapchat streak with a girl that was 800 days long, but he never showed me the snaps, never included me in the snaps, and literally snapped her every day. He says just pictures of the walls, but I never saw any of them so. He did tell me some were selfies of her, and he did, after many arguments about it, and his friend telling him it's mildly inappropriate, he eventually did delete Snapchat altogether. Phone supervision never leaves me unattended with his phone, ever. He could literally go through my phone, and he would not find anything suspicious at all, and I let him use my phone all the time, but God forbid he ever let me near his phone without him there to supervise me. What else is he hiding? Here's the thing, he treats me so well otherwise. He takes me on dates, surprises me with gifts and flowers, comes to my place to visit, my family and friends love him. Heck, my dog loves him more than he loves me. I love his family as well. We have common interests and love spending time together. He makes me laugh. We have traveled together and we travel together well. The stuff in the bedroom is X-rated too. And we do talk about the future together. I can truly see a future with him. I'm just hung up on all this inappropriate behavior while in relationship, at least in my perspective. Some of the things he made changes on, and we are moving on about, but there's still some stuff he won't let go of, like the one previous love interest. He also just doesn't seem to see how bad this stuff looks, or how much it's affecting me. He really doesn't think he's in the wrong, so I'm afraid I'll keep finding more stuff as time goes on because he doesn't get it. He is upset because he thinks I'm accusing him of cheating, and I really don't think he's cheating, just think some of these acts are defiantly borderline and need to stop if I'm going to continue to feel safe, secure and loved in this relationship. I don't want to be always looking over his shoulder and telling him what to do. I recently told him how much this is affecting me and how this could push me away and end our relationship, and he was really surprised by that, but I still don't think he gets it. It would really be nice to see him set some clear boundaries with ex-people, but I'm not sure he will. I feel like I'm asking for the bare minimum, respect, and I shouldn't have to ask for that. OP is not the AH. Her concerns about boundaries and respect in a relationship are valid. Her boyfriend's secrecy, past behaviors, and reluctance to set clear boundaries with old flings raise red flags. She deserves transparency and reassurance, not excuses. Not OP, rather OP's boyfriend is an AH. And I would rate OP's boyfriend 3.5 out of 5 on the AH scale, and OP gets a 0. Let's now jump on to the next story from Oogie Goyib. AITA for talking about my best friend's issues with my girlfriend. I, 17M, have been pretty close to a bunch of people I used to call my friend group for about 4 years, and we have known each other since the first grade. After we switched schools for senior years, we kept in contact for a while, but we slowly distanced over time. But I mainly kept contact with one of them, whom I was the closest to since the beginning, and let's name her Michelle. So, me and Michelle bonded even more because she used to talk to me about her ex-boyfriends and her family problems, and I used to stay up all night texting her so that she had someone to talk to. I even went the extra mile and used to text her sister once in a while when she was feeling low to take care of her. However, after some time she started distancing herself from me, taking time to reply, and ghosting me frequently. When I confronted her on this, she said nothing as such happened and told me I was just overthinking it. I even spoke to the others in the group if they knew anything that happened about her sudden change in behavior towards me, and over time, it just kept getting worse even. I stopped trying to save the friendship at a point, because there was nothing that I could do if she wasn't reciprocating the efforts. When I broke up with my ex, she told me that she didn't like how I told her how I used to justify myself about staying on calls with Michelle when she was low, and it made it look like she was a bad person who would judge me for having a girl best friend who I am close to. I told my ex about Michelle's problems because I was new to the relationship and I didn't think it would be okay to be on long calls with another girl instead of spending time with my girlfriend. I told this story to Michelle, and she replied with a very dry reply, which I couldn't make much sense of. Me and Michelle didn't speak for months after this. One day, I decided to meet one of my friends from the friend group we were both a part of, and he asked me to call Michelle as well. I knew she would have given some excuse just to avoid me, but I gave a shot, and she told me she wasn't available to meet. But when he texted her, she was suddenly all ready and available to meet, which was rude, but I put on a nice face and went. She didn't speak a single word to me the whole time. I was very close to tearing up. What made it worse was that when we were all together, I got the reference that they all had a separate group chat without me, and that just twisted the knife more. I made up an excuse for an emergency and left the meetup to avoid making a scene by tearing up. When I went home, I exited the group chat and texted her if I did anything that upset her or made her uncomfortable to treat me as if I was a stranger to her. 2 days later, she replied saying that I had been acting as if I liked her romantically, and it creeped her out, and that she didn't like that I posted our pictures on my stories when we both met up. First of all, I don't want to talk big or anything, but I am very conscious of my actions or words, and I, for one, never made a move, hit on her, or even hinted at anything as such. Secondly, every time we met as a group, she would post the other guys separately and be very okay about it, but she would never post me or repost my stories, even when we were close, which always made me hope she would post mine one day as well, which led me to post her on my stories. If either of the reasons bothered her so much, why didn't she confront me about it? If our friendship did mean something to her, why would she be okay with throwing it away without even trying to fix it? Even after all this happened, not a single person from the group chat texted me, asking why I left the group chat. I was mad and frustrated, and I texted her, saying that I was sorry for making her uncomfortable, and blocked her. After I came back to my senses, I unblocked her and texted her asking for a conversation to talk about what happened, because there was only so much I could make out from the 30 words vague message she sent me, and see if there was scope to recover the friendship we once had. She didn't reply. On the advice of a friend that I should get closure, and she owes me that at the very least, I texted her 2 weeks later, saying that she couldn't just run away with a very vague reason to end the friendship. She replied, saying she was stressed by college prep, and that she would think about all this after. I don't expect her to do so, though. I found out a few days earlier that one of the mutuals who I strongly dislike, and she made friends with recently in her new school, he is also friends with my ex, so he knows the actual reason for our breakup, gave her a more dramatic story as to why me and my ex broke up, and convinced her that me speaking too much about Michelle and telling her life story to my ex brought the breakup and gaslit her enough into hating me. She even said to him that she didn't like that I told my ex about her without her consent. What's even funnier is that even when she switched schools, I told her to not associate with the guy because all he knows is screwing other people's lives, and yet she chose to believe him over someone who stayed up all night for her and genuinely cared for her as a friend. I can accept my mistake in talking about Michelle's problems with my ex without her consent, but I believe the lack of communication from her side made it worse. I know there's nothing I can do now, but I just want to know what y'all take on this, because I so do not know to what extent I am at fault. P.S. Sorry for the essay. Had to give the whole context. OP is not the AH, but he was wrong to share Michelle's personal issues without her consent. However, Michelle handled the situation poorly by avoiding communication and letting others influence her perception of OP unfairly. Lack of mutual effort ruined the friendship. What do the MacReddit fans think? Is the OP an AH or not? Let me know in the comment section below. If you like the stories I brought you, just hit the like button, share them as much as you can, and don't forget to subscribe to MacReddit for a daily dose. Bye bye, see you tomorrow with some more spicy fries.